Hey guys, it's Dr. McGlasson. Hope everybody's doing okay. I had posted a final grade check for you guys on Canvas yesterday, and then I got a couple of panicked emails because I was freaking people out, and that wasn't my intention at all. So I'm coming to you today with the final FAQ sheet that I had posted with the assignment. So, final exams. This particular sheet was for the two macro classes, but the information is almost identical to the micro classes. So if there's something that's different on the two, I'll talk about it while I'm doing the video here. But for all classes, Spring 2020, I will post the final exam Monday, May 4th. I will leave it up. It will be available through Friday, May 8th. I need you to finish by 5 p.m. and I will get everybody's grades in and submitted. Questions people typically ask me about the final, what's the format? And you guys probably know from earlier in the semester, the final is multiple choice. It is cumulative. There will be a total of 30 questions on here. So 30 questions, total of 100 points, or about 3 1/3 points per question. So when you're doing some calculations later, you can do the math for yourself. Yes, it is cumulative. You know that I've been taking all semester the most missed questions from the quizzes. So you probably have the most missed questions written down somewhere from when we took them in class for quizzes 1 and 2. Quiz 3 came after spring break, so that's when we started having all those quizzes online. Any quiz that we took as an online quiz, I will have posted the most missed questions in the announcements. So you can go back through the announcements and find the most missed questions for your class, for your quiz. And then you can put together a list of those most missed questions so you know what's going to be on the final exam. Final is cumulative. 21 to 25 of the questions will come from the 6 quizzes that we've had, because sometimes there were 3 most missed and sometimes there were 4 most missed, so it's somewhere in that range. But I said there's going to be 30 questions on there, which means that I got to get the other questions from someplace. So, macro students, there will be 21 to 25 questions on the final. In fact, I think it ended up being 22 in one class and 23 in the other, that are your most missed questions. The rest of them, the other 7 or 8 questions, will come from your optional quiz 7. They'll come from the trade quiz. Micro students, we've got your most missed questions, which will account for 21 to 25 of the 30. Any questions where I need to make up the difference to get to the 30 questions, I will pull them from the very last practice set, the section 7 practice set on videos 31, 32, and 33. So, macro, all the most missed, plus a handful of questions from the optional quiz 7. Micro, all the most missed, including the elasticity quiz, and then a handful of questions from your very last video practice set, okay? How much time do we have to take the final? Well, it is, normally we have 20 question quizzes, and I give you an hour. So here you have 30 questions. I'm giving you 2 hours to take the final exam. Is there any way to get out of taking the final exam? It's a very popular question. Basically, I want to do whatever's going to be best for you and your grade. And by the way, if you haven't done the pass-fail versus letter grade survey for me, please make sure that you do, because I would hate to give somebody just a pass, which is going to count at best as a C transferring anyplace else. I would hate to give you that if you had a higher grade for the class. So make sure you fill that out and designate which one you want, the pass-fail or the letter grade. Anyway, if the final exam cannot affect, that is, improve your letter grade, then I will let you opt out of the final exam. So if it can't help you, I won't make you take it, okay? So it'll be your choice whether you take it if the final exam can't change your letter grade at all. Which means you have to figure out what your letter grade is and what it would be after you take the final. So that's what the chart at the bottom is for. What do I need to get on the final to get a fill in the blank for the class? Well, I sent everybody their points. I emailed everyone an attachment yesterday that has their points in the class right now. And I have 2 categories of students. I have the students who have completed everything, which means you've got all the points you can possibly get except for the final exam. This is straight up what your average is right now. The second category is students who still have some work left to do, some things left to submit. If that's the case, like if you haven't finished the last quiz, or for macro students, if you're choosing to do the optional quiz and haven't submitted it yet, or if you've got a couple of 5-point assignments, or for micro, maybe the last written assignment isn't in. So if you still have assignments, this grade will look a little bit low for you. So I don't want to panic somebody where you probably, based on the work that you've done, you may have an A, but because there's still something missing, you could have a B, or whatever the letter grade might be. So just be aware of that. If it's low, don't panic if you still have work to do, because that's going to make your grade bump up as soon as you complete that work. Which is also why for this 5-point assignment, I had 2 versions. One, if you have everything completed except for the final exam, then I want you to tell me, here's what my letter grade is, here's what my letter grade would be if I got 100 on the final, and do I choose to take the final or not? So if that final exam can't change your letter grade, then you can choose whether you want to opt out of the finals. So that's your response for your 5 points on this. If you haven't finished everything, I think I asked you what you have left to finish and what's your plan for finishing that, and then you can still go back in later and calculate for yourself based on this worksheet what you'll need to get on the final exam. So this is entirely for you. I want you to be aware of where you're at going into the final. People always want to know how many points do they need on the final, so that's what this chart is for. I'm going to make up some numbers here. So Dr. McGlasson emailed me, and she said on the attachment, she showed me my point categories. The reason I did that is so that you know where your points might be higher or lower, especially for those people who are still missing some assignments. You'll know whether you can boost that score up or not. But let's say that I'm a student who has finished everything except for the final exam. So I've got all the work in, and having all the work in, let's say that I have a total of 314 points. Okay, 314 out of 400 is going to be 78.5% right now. So right now I have a really high C prior to the final. If I look at the chart, can I still get an A? Well, I have 314 points to get an A at the end of the semester. So as of today, we have 400 points, and I'm counting your average out of 400 points. But once we take the final, it's an additional 100 points, so it's 500 total. So after the final exam, once you've taken the final, if you want an A in the class, you have to have 450 points or higher. I have 314, which means I need 450 for an A. I already have 314 points, so I need, if I'm doing my math right, 136 points on the final. Well, it's only worth 100 points. The final exam's a 100-point exam, so there's no way that I'm going to get an A. Could I get a B? Again, I have 314 points. To get a B, you need 80% of the final 500 points, so I need at least 400 total after taking the final, which means I need 400 minus my 314. So I could get a B if I get an 86 on the final exam. I could do that, right? 86%, I have all the questions. It's all the most missed plus some off of some other source, depending on whether you're micro or macro. But I have all 30 questions. I can do this. I can get an 86% and I can raise my C to a B. On the other hand, I have a lot of students who say, all right, what's going to happen? Will the final hurt my grade? If I have 314 points, I need 350 minus my point total means that if I get as low as a 36% on that final exam, then I still will maintain my C. So this particular student, the final exam could help their letter grade. They could end up with a B for the course. So they would be taking the final. So if it can't help you, if the numbers say that you couldn't possibly raise your grade above where it is now, usually that happens if you're in the very low zone. Like if you had a very low C, the final's not going to bump you up to a B. If you had a very low B, it's probably not going to bump you to an A. In those cases, if it can't help you, then I won't make you take the final if you don't want to take the final. So I'm hoping that this answered all of your questions. If you have other questions, please do let me know. The final exam will be posted all next week. You still have through next week to finish up any odds and ends. Go back and check. Have I missed any assignments that I can turn in and get some extra points? Because you never know, you might be really, really close, be a couple points off, and remember, I don't round up, and then you won't get the letter grade that you wanted, okay? So make sure that you're maximizing your points. Make sure that you go back and have all of the most missed questions so that you are ready for the final. Get all of your work done, say Monday through Thursday at least next week, because Friday is your drop dead deadline on the final exam. You have to have everything, including the final, completed by 5 p.m. Friday. Again, hope everybody's doing well. Hope you're staying safe. Miss seeing you in person. It's just not the same online. But if you have questions, let me know and I'll do what I can to help.